What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Blue Box with PJ and PLD. I am PLD. PJ, well, he went off to fight some Daleks, some Cybermen. I don't even know where he is right now. He's somewhere in time and space, or he was. He sent me a note that he might not make it back. And then I got a signal instead that he may have met into some trouble and he possibly regenerated. And so without further ado, PJ regenerated into Kiwi Jess.
Hello. I like that. Hopefully I'm a fitting regeneration.
Oh, you're definitely a fitting regeneration.
Get angry.
There might be some wokeness that like some people could get mad that you're a girl.
Of course, there has to be a woman now,
Absolutely. I, for one, am glad to have more women on my channel because I have been a sausage fest for a little while. Just Lego as my only other female co-host at any point.
Oh, of course.
I am welcoming a female point of view on the show, especially one as lovely and knowledgeable as yourself. This is actually very fitting because you guys don't know this, but we actually have a threesome on Twitter. That sounded really wrong. We have a two-way chat. Well, you never know. On Twitter, about Doctor Who, PJ, myself, and Jess. We always talk about it, and Jess really pops on first. It might be me, but then we always have to wait because PJ seems to be a little bit behind because he's working.
So behind. Oh. Is he even a fan?
I don't even know. I don't think. That's why I'm kicking him off the show, and you're going to be on full time.
Perfect. No fake fans around here. Because the amount of times I'm like, has PJ watched this? And then we don't get a response for like a day. Right. So you and I just go to our private chat and talk, and then we re-talk about it. It's great. I love it.
I love it too. So yeah, definitely no fake fans here. And so when PJ said he couldn't make it, he is often actually at Disney World, I believe. Hope he's having a blast. He just does that a lot, he seems to. But this Jess was the first person that came to mind to be a co-host. I didn't want to do it to myself. I didn't want to just talk to the screen the whole time because I'm not very comfortable with that. I can do it if need be, but I have such an option. Why would I? But I've talked enough about you. I want you to talk about you. So in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell your credentials, sell yourself to the fan base out there. But you are on PLD Projects. I, of course, like I said, am PLD, and I host this channel amongst others. And if you like things here, you hit that like, hit that subscribe, all that jazz. Let's get this all out of the way first. Patreon.com/PLD Projects. If you want to go even the extra step further, I have a great crew there with people such as Austin Caddell, Brandon Buckingham, whole great crew there, chats, extra content and stuff, which I will be getting back to. It's a little lax. I'm not going to lie. It's been a little bit of a hell of a 3 months in here. So hopefully they'll get back to some extra content. This show actually started as extra content. We actually had 2 mediocre white idiots in a box, but then we kind of decided we're going to do a full-on show after too long. But yeah, that's where we are now. And hopefully you like us, and hopefully you'll continue our only journey through time and space with us. But for now, Jess, let's talk about you since we haven't seen you here. How did you start your Whovian fandom, and where are you in your Whovian fandom?
So I started with 11, fell in love with him just instantly from the first episode. I was smitten, and then grew along with him as a fan. And then I eventually went back and watched full disclosure, haven't watched old Who.
Okay.
Or historic Who. Sorry, I've been told off for calling it old Who. Historic Who. There are people who get mad, but yes, I'm a new Whovian, so I loved that. Loved 12. Unfortunately 13 never quite got me. And then the moment that they announced Ncuti Gatwa's run, I was like, okay, yeah, let's see what he's about. And from his very first appearance, I was like, oh, locked in. Love this guy. And he keeps coming out with more and more reasons. I'm like, he already knew who he was, and that's what I love about him is his doctor's already fully realized. It's insane.
That's a great point. I mean, that's what I kind of said this. I have never fallen in love with the Doctor so quickly. Like it always has been like I think I told this story before. I'm just so I tell you, you've heard
Mhm.
audience has heard a little bit before. I have watched the classic Who. That's what I call it, classic Who. But I didn't watch it right away. So when I was a kid, that my cousin introduced me to Doctor Who, and I watched a little bit of Tom Baker here and there. He took me to a Doctor Who convention when I was really young, but it wasn't something I watched like religiously. It was like it was there, if it was on, cool. If it wasn't, but then like when it came back, I remember hearing about it again. But I didn't really start watching it until Matt Smith as well. But I didn't. When I decided to watch it, I decided not to watch Matt Smith right away. I knew Matt Smith was coming. I knew the 60th or the 50th anniversary was coming. I went, all right, I'm just going to go back. I'm not going to start right now. I'm going to go back to 9 at least and go from 9 and go forward. And then I fell in love. And that's the thing about the doctors. Fell in love with Chris Eccleston right away. Like, not right away, but like I fell in love with Chris Eccleston pretty easily. But then he left. And I was like, who the fuck is David Tennant? Fuck this guy. But then after like maybe 5 episodes, 6 episodes, I'm like, this guy's fucking awesome. I love this guy. And David Tennant became my favorite at the time. Got to Matt Smith, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy now? No, I don't want to lose David Tennant. He's fucking awesome. Matt Smith took about a good half a season, 7 episodes. I went, all right, I love this guy too. He's a great guy. Then we got through end of Matt Smith. Peter Capaldi comes in. I'm like,
oh,
I didn't say fuck Peter Capaldi because I was kind of like, you've said fuck the last 3 and you really loved him. So let's
and been proven wrong.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to give this guy a chance. I listened to Matt Smith during Peter Capaldi's first episode. When Matt Smith called Clara, I was listening to that phone call saying, accept this doctor. I'm like, okay, let's try it. But even he didn't really get me until like episode 8 or something to that effect, 7, 8. I really was locked in with him. Although I will say when he locked in because he is now my favorite doctor of all of them by far. It's funny that way, but I too, unfortunately, was not smitten by Jodie. Was never smitten by Jodie, although it was not her fault.
No, not her at all.
It was the
fantastic actress.
I'm more of an anti-Chibnall as showrunner. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I'm not a Chibnall fan. Even he's written some episodes for previous doctors. They were never my favorite episodes. They were always kind of like, oh, I can find episodes. Right. But the problem I had with this was, to me, when Chibnall took over, it just, everything became too new. It was like way too new and detached itself from the show. We had a new doctor. We had new companions. We had a new showrunner who didn't want to use any of the classic monsters. We had all new monsters, a new composer, new everything. So it was kind of like, this doesn't feel like the show I like at this point. That's the problem. You did have some okay episodes. Judy had some episodes.
I wanted to love her. As soon as they announced her, I was like, oh, I'm so happy, especially as a female. It was so nice to have the announcement of a female doctor. And then it happened, and it felt almost misogynistic to be like, I don't like her. And obviously it's ridiculous. And I felt so sorry for any guy that was coming out to say, I don't like her, because that was always the conversation that started around it. Right. And I'm very much against assuming just because she's a female, that's the reason why you do it. Because I'm a female, and she is my least favorite new doctor.
My wife,
and I hate that.
My wife, who watches it with me, after I binged back in the day, I immediately turned around and binged again with my family. I have kids. I went, we're going to do this all together. And we got to the 50th anniversary and loved it and everything else. She watched all the way through. She fell out during the Jodie era, didn't really come back until Shooty. So it's understandable. Oh, no, I'm sorry, till David Tennant, the 14th. She came back for the special.
Oh, yeah. So we always gloss over him, but yes,
it's all
I'm the same.
But I love that too. I get that too. But so yeah, no, you're exactly right too. I felt like because there was such that tone in the air of like, obviously there's a lot of misogyny in the air. I was like, I really want to like her because I want to fight that misogyny. So I just basically stayed quiet because she didn't need anybody talking against her. So I was kind of like,
no,
I'll just like be quiet about it. But at the end of the day,
there's already angry people every time a new doctor gets announced. That like I was so heartbroken because she's the one that I really wanted to stick the landing.
Right.
Peter Capaldi, when he got announced, I was like, yeah, great. But I wasn't like, God, come on, I need you to be great, because he would have been great regardless. For her, I was like, please, because in my mind, I was like, we need to have this be good so we get another female doctor.
Right.
Not necessarily
Exactly.
right after. I'm not mad about him being a male again.
No.
But at some point down the line, and when after every episode I just sit in silence, I'm like, oh, come on. Could we not try to do this well?
Right,
I was like
exactly.
heartbroken for her because
Yeah.
she's such a supremely talented actress.
Yeah.
She would have absolutely played an amazing like doctor had she been given the actual like
Material.
tools for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's unfortunate what happened. And it's not even that it was like a complete failure. I did find some joy in some of the episodes. I did like some of the episodes here and there. It was just overall, it went from appointment viewing to I'll catch up. That's
Yeah.
like I always watch Doctor Who. Like now, like I'm watching it. Day it comes out, boom, I'm
Ooh.
there. We're all over it.
Oh yeah.
Before I kind of like when Flux came out, I was like, oh, the first like 3 or 4 episodes. All right, I can watch a couple of them now and see if I like it. And
It'll happen. I'll get around
exactly.
to it.
So I will say I did love her last episode, The Power of the Doctor. I thought that was really, really good. The one that at the end she left for get turned back into David Tennant again. And that's not why I loved it. It was just a lot of it actually felt like a Doctor Who story, especially because they brought in some classic
which
doctors
is
and stuff.
such a shame. They waited till the last episode to give her a proper Doctor episode.
I know. I will say another good thing about her run. Here we are 10 minutes in. We haven't talked about this week's episode. We're still kind of building up. That's all right, though. We're all good.
Strap in. 3 hours. Here we go.
Absolutely. Here we go. It was that we got a great master. I loved Sasha Dewan and Sasha. I'm not going to the name. I'm very bad. I'm
not
names.
going to try.
I will find out really quickly.
I know faces. I don't know names. I can remember. I'll be like, oh, that person was in this like obscure role in this one film I saw in the 2000s. But when it comes to names, I'm like, God, I feel bad.
I was really close. Really close. It is Sasha Dewan. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Dhawan. I am awful at pronouncing names too. That's another thing. That's PJ actually has. I would usually give to PJ. So PJ, wherever you are, come back with me with the name pronunciation because I'm horrible at it. But he was wonderful as the master. That's why I really did like him as well. So there we go. We got David Tennant back. And what did you think? We're here. What did you think about the specials? Were you happy that Russell T Davies is back? Tennant was back. Did it help you right away? Okay. Yeah.
When they announced it, I was super, super stoked. But also because the big reveal of Tennant being back, I was like, oh my, okay, this is something. Also, I forget, I ruined that. The viewers don't know this.
That's true.
But I still feel so terrible to this day about it. But
tell the story about what happened there.
I watched it, and for some reason, I just went into. I think I just had an aneurysm from the reveal that I just lost my mind because usually we're very good at checking in, but I just went, David Tennant's back in the chat, and then PJ just writes, Jess, I don't think PLD's seen it yet, and I wanted to die. So I felt so bad because we're usually so good, but I lost my damn mind. That's what happened.
It was okay. I kind of had a feeling it was coming. I had heard rumors about it. Let's put it that way. I'd heard rumors. So you just confirmed something I kind of already knew. It wasn't the end of the world. It was exciting still. And I still love watching.
So that's how excited I was, chat. I was so excited. I forgot the rules of etiquette. And I just did spoilers. But yeah, so I was and also Neil Patrick Harris.
I love Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh. And then they announced the Doctor, and then they announced Jinx Monsoon was going to be in this season. I was like, they're just giving me everything I've ever wanted because you're putting my favorite drag queen into Doctor Who. It doesn't get better than this, and she was phenomenal because I had this brief moment where I was like, oh, what if it's terrible? What if it's bad? And then I have to do this again where I'm like, yay, person I really love. Oh, God, what have they done with you?
What'd you do? Oh, right. Yeah.
But phenomenal. I hope she gets to come back in some fashion. I'm not sure how, but because
it's Doctor Who. They can figure out a way.
In my mind, it's going to be like a Super Mario Brothers like boss fight where the Doctor has to face off all of the children.
That could be. That absolutely could be. I mean, I thought about that myself at one point, a gauntlet of some sorts. I was also very excited about David Tennant coming back and Donna Noble getting to finally finish off that story and giving Donna a proper ending that wasn't so depressing and sad.
Oh, God, yeah.
The only thing I worried about, unfortunately, came true. I'm going to briefly touch base on this only because I have to comment on it, even though I hate commenting on it. I was a little worried about a certain section of fandoms because fandoms recently have been going in this direction. And with Russell T Davies is going to be empowered, and I knew he was going to be more empowered this time around to do things of POC and, of course, especially LGBTQ.
Oh yeah.
He was going to be more empowered as a stronger guy now to do it than he was back in 2005 when he was just trying to bring Doctor Who back. Even then, we had a little bit, Jack Kiss 9. I mean, there was all kind of little things here and there. They weren't shying away from it, but I knew he was going to be a little more overt about it, which is fine, which is where we are nowadays and where we should be nowadays. Yeah. But I knew it was going to be one of those kind of like, there's going to be that section. And sure enough, we have that section. And it seems like Doctor Who fandom has been split. Well, they've been split ever since Jodie came on board, because after that was, it's all of a sudden we're not Doctor Who's not an old white man anymore. We had our run, guys. We had a lot. We had how many? 14? Pretty much. Oh,
yeah. I think you guys had enough. We get one. We get one every 14. Let's be honest. Come on, guys. Come on.
Absolutely.
Why not?
So I was worried about that, but that's all I'm going to say about that, because that's really not even worth talking about at this point. If you don't like, if it's really bothering you, it's not for you anymore, and that's something you have to deal with. You have to either
they have aliens in it. Everyone looks different from each other in this. Please get this through your head. They have so many weird looking ass characters in this, and you're going to get upset about the main character because of what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Make it make sense, please.
I can't, and I'm that old white guy, but I can accept it. I don't know why they can't, but hey, it is what it is, I guess. What can you say?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got into Shooty's era, and yes, I love Shooty. The whole long roundabout of that story was I love Shooty from the moment he stepped in during the giggle with David Tennant.
Yes.
He's holding his own with David Tennant. David Tennant, who, even though David Tennant not my favorite doctor, he's one of my favorite doctors. He's still in my at least probably top 3. He might be my second favorite, to be honest with you. But he is the face of the Doctor, whether we want to admit, he's the face of the new Doctor.
I don't want to admit it, but yes,
absolutely is. Absolutely is. But he's holding his own with the face of the Doctor, and if not overshadowing him a little bit, maybe.
And also Tennant's fully realized his Doctor by this point. He grew into it, fully discovered his Doctor along playing him. Right. Yeah. Whereas Shooty had to come in as his own realized Doctor, because otherwise it would have felt so flat and off compared with Tennant's. That's a huge ask. No one really talks about it.
No.
But
but that we did, PJ and I did. We actually said how exciting it was that he came in and really just took the center stage, and I loved him from that moment on. Where I was like, oh, we are in good hands. We are in good hands. And then we met Millie on the Church of Ruby Road, and I was like, wow.
She is divine.
The last time we had a real duo like that, as much as I love Capaldi, I would say maybe Capaldi and Clara, but I would have to go back to Matt and Karen as the last, these guys have chemistry for days, those two together. And Millie has taken a character which I think you could argue, there could be an argument made if you step back from everything, that Russell T Davies is kind of repeating some beats of his first run, of his first 2005 run. There's a lot of Rose in Ruby. In a way. There's a lot of Eccleston's Doctor, at least to the beginning, in Ncuti Gatwa's character. And we're hitting some of those similar beats here and there. Not copying, but it's kind of like that, we're starting at that same level. We're going to, it's like poetry, it rhymes, as George Lucas would say, kind of thing. But she took that as could have been just a simple Rose 2.0 and made it completely her own. And I don't even think about I barely ever think about Rose anymore.
She got her own solo episode that she carried so well
right away.
And that's when I was like, oh, she knows what she's doing. She knows exactly who she is, because she can carry an episode by herself a couple of episodes into the season. That's not a small thing.
And from what I've heard, or I read correctly, that was the first thing she shot.
Mm-hmm.
So boom, she was, no pun intended. 73 yards. So, but boom, there she was
Yeah.
in place at that point. So I knew like right away I was good for it. The Church of Ruby Road came and I enjoyed it a lot. I was like, okay, here we go. See the trailer for the new season. And I gotta say, I was really looking forward to this episode from the get-go, from the first trailer, because I am in love with Jonathan Groff in every way possible. Like Jonathan Groff, like I've said this a few times on my channel, but not as well known in the grand social media scheme of things. Jonathan Groff is in the Ed Harris league, as far as I'm concerned. Not quite that level, not quite all on top, but he is like my young Ed Harris. Like when Ed Harris eventually passes, he'd be the guy I want to follow. I will see anything with Jonathan Groff in it because he really, I don't know, man. He's got some power. He's got some charisma for days. I love everything he is in. I got to see him live on Off Broadway with Daniel Radcliffe, and so good, so good. But love him, Mindhunters, love him in obviously Hamilton, everything he's ever been in. I just love him. So I saw that he was going to be in this.
Glee. I saw him in Glee, and I was like, oh, there we go.
And what did he sing in Glee for me? He sang Bohemian Rhapsody. Anyway, perfect.
Oh, right? Wow, full circle.
Boom, there it go. So I was really looking forward to this episode. I know it was one of the episodes that people were talking a lot about because he kind of came off like he was going to be a Jack Harkness type, Captain Jack. We haven't had Captain Jack back. Obviously, John Barrowman has had his issues and he has effed up a little bit. And I think worse than that is he keeps kind of doubling down on it, and that's the problem. I think he kind of like if he had apologized and moved on, I think he might have.
He doesn't have a PR team apparently, or if he does, he just doesn't listen to them.
That actually makes a lot of that sounds like him. He's very much I'm impulsive. I'm going to do it. That's what got him in trouble in the first place. I think he's somebody that we could forgive if he took the right steps. It's not like he's unforgivable for some of the stuff he's done. I don't think, at least as far as I've heard. You just got to make reparations a little bit. You got to own it a little bit and
a little bit of damage control.
A little bit. But we're not getting that. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to get him anytime soon. So that led me to believe, is Jonathan Groff maybe going to be a recast of Jack Harkness? I even went through my head about that because it would make sense. We were wrong. It wasn't. However, I will still hold true that I think Jonathan Groff's character Rogue, which spoilers, obviously we're talking spoilers. At the end of the episode, he goes away, but he was definitely leaving the doctor. He says, "Find me, doctor."
He says, "Find me," and I'm like, "Yes, now, right now, go to him."
It feels like they have plans to want to bring him back at some point.
Yeah.
So I could see him, even if he's not replacing Captain Jack and I recast as Captain Jack, I could kind of see him sliding into that role a little bit, that kind of like part-time companion. Like he wouldn't be like he used to be. He wasn't ever a full-time companion, but he would, a couple episodes here, he'd leave again. He'd kind of come
like
in
a river song.
A river song type. He's another exact perfect representation of it. And I think I'd be very happy to have him come back like that. And he fills that Captain Jack void. That's a perfect person to do so. Especially, I would have told you that before the episode. Now that I've seen this episode, 1,000 times so, because this was a hell of an episode. I want to point this out right away. My wife, this is her favorite episode of all time, baby. Obviously, there's new. There's that new car smell going on here a little bit. That new
I've done that before. Oh, best episode ever, and then maybe not. Maybe
you got to step it back a little bit, but she's not one to ever really usually say something like that. So I start pitching some other ones to her. She's like, "Yeah, I just like that one a lot. But she loved this one a whole hell of a lot. So,
great choice.
Yeah,
impeccable taste.
I totally agree. So here we are, 24 minutes in. Let's really get into the deep and
let's talk the episode.
Let's actually talk the episode. We're here for it. If you're still here, I really appreciate you. And if you're not, I actually kind of understand. We kind of rambled. That's okay. This is also the Bridgerton episode. Everybody loves Bridgerton. I have never watched Bridgerton, I know, but I am aware
I can talk the Bridgerton stuff. There we go. That's what you've got me here for. I know Bridgerton.
I am aware of the phenomenon. I understand the basics of it, at least. and obviously this is a play on that. And that's how we open up. We get to see the Doctor, and
which is hilarious because it's Netflix,
yes, which is funny, right? That's what I was like. What is
right?
it, a Netflix show? But they're playing it off.
They can
Okay,
name drop. They can name
okay,
drop Bridgerton.
okay.
Okay.
It is quite interesting to me that we can play along these things. Like this is our episode where, to me, it's like we use the Doctor's race as a story beat now, because before, David Tennant could show up here and nobody bats an
Mm-hmm.
eye, but now we kind of have to think about that, like, oh, and I do use it in this episode, but I'm kind of like, this is going to be interesting to go back into Earth's time and to see where the Doctor will fit, and we got a little bit of that in
The
13.
undertones would be so different now.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we got a little bit of that in 13. Obviously, he had Ryan and Yasmin were both POC, so them going back in time, they had to face some racism. We've never had the Doctor face racism, and of course, that last episode we had, the Dot and Bubble, really showcased it. I think we got to stick with that through it. So it happened. I don't know if happy is the right word, but I was satisfied enough that we did at least touch base on that during the episode. So I was again, I'm like, okay, 1813. I don't even know where we are. Like, are you even supposed to be here right now? Is this going to be something? But it did. But I like to right away we start off with the Doctor and I still almost call her Rose. That's my problem. Every once in a while I go Ruby. Ruby. They had great chemistry right away. I love the idea of the psychic earrings being able to help her dance, because quite frankly, I could use some psychic earrings to do that. I am not a dancer, so give me those psychic earrings, please. But it was a great setup, and as the Bridgerton fan, what did you think of the setup? And did it really fit the phenomenon?
Every woman who's seen Bridgerton wants to be in Bridgerton. It's just a fact. So this was just wish fulfillment. Because last episode, I told you this privately, but last episode was also wish fulfillment for young Jess, because I too once loved a famous Ricky, and that was my ultimate fantasy. And now we have adult Jess ultimate fantasy. So, we're just crossing off, we're just ticking all the boxes. It's great. It's great. So it's wish fulfillment.
So RTD basically has a look inside your head, or at least your scrapbook of some kind or something. So
yeah, clearly read my diary. But it was great because even in true Bridgerton style, they had the orchestral versions of popular songs like Poker Face and Bad Guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping there'd be even more. I was looking for them at that point, because I love that.
I
love when they do that myself. So I will say, I know I said that Ruby has found her own place. This was the most Rose I felt that she was to me. This actually, and I think part of that is because this whole episode, minus like the big old gay romance angle part of it, this felt like a very classic New Who, still like New Who, like Archie, like Chris Eccleston era. Like this just felt like a classic episode of Doctor Who. Old school adventure, old school bouncing around. She felt like Rose bumping into the higher class Bridgerton type folks, and with her slightly
and she's
more.
So giddy. That's the nice thing, is she's so like excited, whereas it's kind of been a little bit more heavier for her to play of recent. So getting her to be excited, like we saw when she saw Space Babies was probably the last time we really saw her be this excited, because every other episode she's kind of had to really play quite heavy tasks, so it's been quite nice watching her just be fangirling about it. It's great.
It actually almost felt like a second episode of the season kind of thing, because usually we kind of start off the episodes with like light moments. They have, obviously this has a heavier ending still, but we have a lot of those light kind of like, oh, I'm flitzing through time and space and getting to visit all these kind of cool places, and yay, it's adventure time. And you're right, she doesn't get that. She kind of like went right from like kind of heavy. Here we are, a wish fulfillment for her, Bridgerton kind of thing.
Yes.
So I loved seeing her do that, but it did kind of remind me of Rose, but in the best way possible. Because she hasn't had to do that very much. So I was very okay with it there. Of course, meanwhile, the Doctor does see Mr. Rogue, which I find funny. We have the Doctor and Rogue. Don't know his real name.
It's a D&D reference as well. As someone who's currently playing a D&D campaign, I squealed at that. I was like, yes, Doctor Who recognizes D&D.
Doctor himself loves D&D appearance. Like, I'd love to see the Doctor playing D&D. But yeah, he didn't.
I wonder what class he'd play. I really do.
That's a great question. almost feel like he'd have to be a bard type almost, but like,
I bet you every Doctor would be different though.
yeah,
Let's
that's
be
true.
honest. Capaldi would not play a bard.
I don't know. Even the guitar. I don't know.
Oh, true.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. That's a totally different episode we'll have to do. We'll have to bring you back for that episode.
Yeah.
Oh. We'll rule for initiative for there. But right away, they had chemistry. Like up on the balcony, they're flirting with each other right away. And it's very rare the Doctor is so overt with his flirting. Just so.
Oh, yeah, right.
In the face,
just locked in.
You're hot. I'm going for you, kind of thing. And to the point where there was some complaints, the wrong word, where people were kind of like, "Does the Doctor, is that like out of stuff?" It almost is question whether that was out of character. We have to go back and go. There have been romances. We had the girl in the fireplace. We had Kylie Minogue in the Titanic episode. Surprisingly enough, we'll call back for that. Obviously coming up. So he has had these moments. So, but this was definitely kind of a first for him as far as like. I mean, not first, but definitely was the most advanced and forward.
Is it also because you'd be able to answer this, is it also the first time the Doctor's been proposed to?
I don't remember. Classic, I haven't seen enough of, so I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to remember if he did or not in the classic era. I don't remember anything in the new Who, though. I got to tell you, I don't think so. I believe that would be it.
Quite excited. But also, I love that every time Rogue was mean to the Doctor, it made him like him more. It's just like every time he was just like so like whatever about him. He was like, "Oh, I want you. I want you so bad just because you're mean to me. Like, don't like me. Yeah,
I have to win you over
work
now."
For this.
Exactly. Right. He doesn't have to. He's used to being fawned upon for his intelligence and fawned upon for knowing everything. And here, this guy kind of almost is his equal. I mean, he doesn't know everything, but you don't get somebody who's that close to the Doctor as far as time and space goes, for example. That was great. That was a great beginning with them right away. So we get to the point where they bring him outdoors, and that's when we find out about the shoulder, and we have that great back and forth when they each think the other is the shoulder. After they discover the Duchess and like saying the same thing, and somebody contemptible, somebody loathsome, you.
Yeah, that's the Spider-Man pointing. I literally said out loud, I'm like, "You should kiss." I said it out loud because it was such a it was very Bridgerton, like, "Oh, I hate you that like so much, but it's actually because I'm so into you." I was like, yes, keep Bridgertoning.
What did you think of the shoulder? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, really cool having once again more practical effects back in Who, because sometimes they get a little bit CGI heavy, and so I love it when you can see the actors in the makeup. I don't know why sometimes, but it just feels a little bit more real for me. Like the fact that they just cosplay is just the most fun and classic Doctor Who. Like, they're not technically villains, they just want to they just want to do like role playing. That's it. They just want to role play, and it's like, this is so dumb. It's such a dumb like vengeance quest. Like, not really vengeance quest, but like quest for like glory. But it's so Doctor Who.
So it's exactly what I thought too. They're very silly villains to a degree, but they're not going to ever be like the serious like Daleks or like Weeping Angels, but they do fit their role perfectly, especially because this is a episode where it's not about the villain. It's not about the Doctor and the villain. It's about everything else. The villain are kind of more of just like the catalyst than anything else. So you don't need to have any like real strong, powerful, memorable. They fit their role. They kind of remind me a little bit Family of Blood, Doctor. Very similar. And that's what I mean. Russell T Davies kind of like, he's repeating some of his beats here and there, like something that reminds me of earlier things. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all, because they were good beats to have. And you got to kind of he has a new audience a little bit now too with Disney Plus and everything else. So it's kind of like, okay, I can tell you some of these things that worked before.
He's great because he knows how to write to let certain things breathe more than others.
Yes.
And I love that. Like, even in Dot and Bubble, the Doctor and Ruby are like almost the B plot, and not even the B plot. They're just like flitting in and out to for this other story to take priority. And it's not even it's not even like he's doing it to because he doesn't think that it's an important thing. He wants to build the story exactly where he needs it to be. It's like it's such a wonderful thing that he does in all of his episodes so far this season is certain things take a back seat for the right reasons.
You say that, and it's like, actually, I think about that, and I know we're not talking about Dot and Bubble again, but I want to say, to your point, exactly the thing is that I, especially as a white man, didn't recognize all the, we talked about this off air, like I didn't recognize all the microaggressions the first time through until the end. I think part of that is because he wasn't on screen as much, because if he was on screen the whole time or talking the whole time, you would have seen something eventually.
You would have felt it.
You felt that tension.
And I only got one though. Right. And look, I'm a person of color, and the one I clocked was when she said, you know, I thought you were all the same. I thought you all looked the same, and I went, oh, right. Like clutched my pearls sort of thing. But then they moved on from it so quickly and dropped it that I was like, oh no, maybe that was. And you do this thing of maybe I've got this baggage around that, and maybe I'm just sensitive to it. You drop it, and it's so brilliantly written that he knows how to write it for that reveal versus him hand feeding you, going, "Hello, racist." They're to the point that people are still arguing about whether it's classism or racism, and I'm like, it's definitely racism, guys. But that just speaks to how beautifully he's beautifully written it so that it can be applied to other things, but it also isn't so heavy-handed, because some of them are so heavy-handed.
Yeah, and that's what Chibnall did, and that's like where you didn't like Chibnall as much. Like Chibnall's his Rosa Parks episode was a good episode, but there was never any subtlety to it, and that's the thing.
No.
There's nothing subtle about the episode. It's still a good episode. It still tells the right thing and teaches the right thing. It's got some powerful moments in there. But this is the RTD way is far more effective, because the Chibnall one, the Rosa Parks one, as good as it was kind of like still is kind of, okay, it's a theatrical school special. Racism is bad. This one like made me think about it, and I sat with that like for a while afterwards, going, wow. And I went back.
You and another contributor to the show had the exact same experience, and I got to experience Maddie. So Maddie's finally watching Who. I got him to watch Dot and Bubble, because I was like, I don't even think you need to be a fan of Doctor Who to watch it at all.
Right.
There's nothing you need to know about the Doctor's backstory or who he is or anything. You can watch this episode of standalone. And so I was like, please just go watch it, see if you like it, and you might actually like Doctor Who. And I had to watch the man spiral after that, and I felt terrible because like, I guess intended effect, but at the same time I was like, oh, I've just had this man have a bit of a existential crisis.
Right. I luckily what happens a lot of times is, like, for example, I think my wife wasn't around the first time, whatever it was, I watched it with my son, and then my wife came back from what she was doing, and like, so the next day I watched it with her. So when I watched it the second time with her, I was like, I saw everything, because I was like, they're like, oh, you're an idiot. You missed it. Like, you're an idiot for missing it. But it's really because it was just well written and well done, well performed. So I totally, and that to me is more effective, because I think about that. It sits with me for a bit. I'm like, okay. Oh, okay. So.
But that's a mark of a great episode, is that one that sits with you. It sits with you. You know, the Rings of Akatan, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but from
Matt Smith,
Matt Smith's where we get Clara and we get him saying take it all, and it's just really that sat with me for a while. So all these sorts of powerful moments and Who, and Russell T Davies writes the most beautifully well balanced stories, that nothing feels too packed. It always feels like a really full, well-rounded episode, but everything has its place and its space within that episode.
Yes. My perfect pitch is RTD show running, Stephen Moffat writing, because Moffat writes the best speeches for the Doctor.
Oh, yes.
Those speeches that he comes up with. Even when he's writing, when he was show running, he had some speech. Like, there's a couple of Matt Smith bangers.
Give Shruti Gatwa one of those speeches. Oh, my gosh.
We haven't had that yet. We haven't had one of those.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
No, because unfortunately we haven't like really gotten to see those chops on him. But that's the thing that I always loved about Moffat, is he always did the most incredible, especially, I'm sorry, but you could tell how much he loved doing Smith's ones, because he knew Smith. I'm sorry, but he got some of the best monologues of any Doctor.
Oh yeah, he did. And we got a little bit. We got a little with the racism episode with Don Bubble.
Mhm.
He had that great moment of racism at the end, but it was actually a good performance. But didn't have the big speech.
Yes.
He had a speech in this one, which we're about to get to shortly, which was like just the
Ooh.
typical "I am the doctor" speech. I am this is who I am kind of speech. Capaldi, of course, got the Zygon inversion speech, the war speech,
Oh,
which was brilliantly done by him.
oh,
And
chills still.
and his moment, it wasn't the speech, but it was the "I am the doctor." That's the one that won me over. Was the Capaldi graffiti one? Was when the
Yes.
graffiti monsters came in. He's like, he gives them a chance. He's like, I can't remember the exact line now, but the way he delivers, like, all right, you've proven who you want to be, so I have to do who I'm supposed to be, the man who stops the monsters. I'm like, yes, he's the doctor. He comes out, grabs me, getting chills. I want to get Shooty that moment. I haven't quite had.
Yeah, he hasn't had that yet. Right. Powerful moments, such powerful, brilliant moments, and also like the subtlety in which he carries a lot of his really powerful moments is amazing. But yeah, he needs a speech. He needs a really good, goddamn it, speech.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm waiting for. I know you have it in the RTD. Let's get it done. Let's get it because he can. I know
before the end of the season, please. We don't have many episodes left. Please give me my speech.
At least we know he's already into season 2. So if it has to wait till season 2, it has to wait till season 2. But let's get it. So let's talk now. Okay, so we do have Rogue and the Doctor in now. If they pass by the shed, which was pretty funny, we get onto the Rogue ship at this point. This is easily my favorite scene in the whole show. The whole way through. The flirting, the sexual attention is like you can cut it with a knife. Kylie Minogue, that moment with the song, and the Sonic,
and he just keeps putting it back on. I'm like,
you're dancing them. Rogue's getting into it, so you can tell it's so good and like it's so earned, and it's tough to do to have in a TV show, a 40-minute show. You have one episode that by the end of the episode, you believe the relationship. That's tough to do. And you totally do in this one. Because there's been times where he's had like those one episode relationships. It's kind of like, okay. This, though, I bought. They just had that.
And you can feel that it has an effect. Right. You feel you can like it's not just someone that he's met in his travels and he had a bit of a brief dalliance with. This is someone that means something to him now.
Right. He wants to explore that further because they actually have this real solid connection. I will say that I love the Dr. Rogue stuff so much that every time they kind of switch back to the Ruby side of things, I was kind of like, okay, that's okay. I get what you're doing. Okay, we got to check in with you, see where you are. And it wasn't that she was bad. It wasn't a bad thing. No, they weren't like bad parts of the episode. They just suffered in comparison to how good the other stuff was. That's what you want to go through. And the shoulder stuff, same thing. It's kind of like they had to have those beats to get the story along, but we're really just kind of pushing it along until we got back to the Rogue Doctor at that point.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. And the best part, of course, is he traps in the transport. Let's talk about the scene that was talked about a lot. He did get a little bit of a speech here. Like we were talking about his little moment when he had the he initially thought he was a shoulder. He said he was a shapeshifter, so he still said that like it still felt like a shoulder to him. And the Doctor throws. Oh, I do have to touch base on one funny thing. The psychic paper was awesome.
Oh yes,
you're hot. What?
No, you're hot.
It's broken.
I'm hot. You're hot.
What does that mean? No,
of course the psychic paper's going to sell him out because much like the TARDIS, it has a personality because everyone forgets that like a lot of his things are kind of almost sentient, but not in a creepy, trapped within a, not no autonomy kind of way, but just in the like, we're going to fuck around.
Right. It's invoked with his own personality in a way. It's kind of rubbed off on him, on the tools he uses, so to speak. It's kind of like a little bit of that. So yeah, that was funny. Then he throws just when he's about to be taken away to who knows where, some dimensions away. He throws it hits the buttons. Now here's one of those Doctor Who things. These happens all the time. He happens to hit the right button to get this to start. Okay, it's a little much, but okay, but we buy it, we move on. And we get the moment that almost every Doctor gets at some point or another. And it's a moment that every Doctor Who fan loves. Because if you're a fan of Doctor Who, you've been there for such a long time. it's like a reward for your continued loyalty. And you get to see, of course, all the doctors fly by. You got 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, all of them are in there. War Doctor, Joe Barton, the fugitive doctor, which I have to say,
I gasped.
I have to say, as much as I'm not a huge fan of the Timeless Child, Jodie England, I never was. I didn't like it. I think it was a complete missed opportunity. What should have happened? My actually son agrees with this too. My son loves this idea. Instead of it having been the Doctor, because the Doctor is not supposed to be a chosen one type. The Doctor's supposed to be an idiot in a box, like a really smart idiot in a box, but that's his thing. He's not a chosen one. He's just a visitor. He goes around. No, that's him.
Yeah.
Having the Master have been the Timeless Child. Like the knocking in his head, like the 4 knocks, all that kind of stuff. It would explain a lot of different kind of cool things. How he's always been an outsider. That could have been a way you could have gone, and it could have been cool. Had the Master have been the chosen one. That could have been interesting
as well,
right? And that would have been very interesting to me. Fortunately, we didn't get it. But at the same time, I'm actually very, I don't know, I would say proud of RTD. I respect that RTD has said, no, I'm not retconning anything. I'm going to make it fit my own way.
I'm going to. I do love that. I do love that about him, that he honors everything that came before.
He's like, my friend wrote this. I'm not going to say it didn't happen. He doesn't even say he doesn't like it or not. He didn't really comment on it too much, but he figures he'll just figure out a way to work it. I think that part of that has become the Salt, the end of the universe, the Toymaker line about futzing with the puzzle. I think we're getting a little bit now. And a lot of stuff, I've seen some complaints from Whovians about, like, well, it becomes a little lazy if you just kind of can now pick and choose what's right. You can change what happens. And I'm like, to them, to these people, I'm like, you obviously have never read comic books, because after 60 years, we're in our 60th year. That's a weight. Canon becomes a weight and a baggage. So
it locks you in.
It locks you in, exactly. So sometimes the best way to do it, like DC Comics had Crisis on Infinite Earths. They have all these kind of different reboots where it allows you to kind of like cherry pick some of the good stuff, change some of the stuff that didn't work, and kind of like massage it. And you can kind of make things work that didn't work before. It helps with canon and lets things be refreshed. It lets you tell fresh stories in a way you might be able to tell new and different stories. So I understand the idea of being canon junkie. I was at one point, maybe at some time, like not in Doctor Who, but like in previous fandoms. But I've gotten to the point where if it means we can tell different stories in a better way, I'm all for letting someone massage the canon in a lazy way by letting stuff kind of flow together. I think it works. And of course, with that in mind, we did get that moment of gasping to me, where we see Richard E. Grant among the doctors. And I'm like, what the? I had to literally go back and pause me. That's Richard E. Grant.
Yeah, I thought I saw it wrong. I was like, somehow I blacked out and imagined a doctor that doesn't exist. I had to. I never do this, but I had to pause it because I knew I wasn't going to be able to think of anything else. I had to go back in that moment, even though I was watching it for the first time. I don't do that usually.
I don't blame you, because I was the same thing. I'm like, wait a minute, what is he doing there? And I'm like, I thought back on it. Obviously, if you are Whovian for a while, you know that Richard E. Grant has now twice kind of played the Doctor. He did it in the Rowan Atkinson comedy relief one, where he was the handsome doctor.
That's right.
But I believe more apropos to what we're talking about now, he did play what we call the Schalke Doctor. The Schalke Doctor, if you don't know, I figure I'll tell you guys. I'm sure you might already know this, but if you're new to Who, you might not know. The Schalke Doctor, for the 40th anniversary of Doctor Who, it took place between Paul McGann's movie and Chris Eccleston's debut in 2005. They had the BBC kind of celebrated with a 6-part, I believe, webisode animation Doctor story. The Doctor was voiced by Richard E. Grant. And it's called Screams of the Schalke. So he was the Schalke Doctor. Now, when 9 came along, he was kind of shifted off to being non-canon. There was stories at one point. Now, there were stories. There's rumors, conjecture that when they were going to bring Doctor Who back, that Richard E. Grant was going to play the Doctor. not Chris Eccleston. RTD has denied that. RTD has actually said he didn't love the Schalke Doctor storyline. He thought Richard E. Grant kind of mailed it a little bit. I don't know. It's a thing. But he said that he was never having Richard E. Grant as the Ninth Doctor. But is that damage control? I don't know. There's some massaging going on there. But either way, the Schalke Doctor was basically at one point the Ninth Doctor. So
isn't
now,
he also the Great Intelligence, though?
He was also playing the Great Intelligence. Yes.
So that's what I thought. I just saw him in there when I paused it. I was like, yep, definitely Richard E. Grant. I was like, I guess the Great Intelligence was also the Doctor? I didn't know.
He did step into the time stream of Matt Smith's Doctor. So there's something there potentially as well.
I just accepted it and moved on with my life. I was like, there's clearly context I missed in those episodes. Because I've just assumed that, yes, why not? Richard E. Grant's also the Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. But that is true. I
believed I was dumb and didn't catch something in the episode. I was too embarrassed. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I knew that.
I'm glad that I was able to have this conversation with you then. You should look it up afterwards and watch it at some point.
I'm absolutely going to.
So, but the idea is now, is the Schalke Doctor is now canon. So does he go between the War Doctor and Schalke? Does Schalke go to Eccleston?
Richard E. Grant in an episode now as the Doctor. I mean, it's going to just break everything because he's also the Great Intelligence, and people like me just assume that somehow makes. I mean, look, if you can run it past me, and I'll be like, yes, sounds about right. Let's go.
Peter Capaldi was in Doctor Who before he became the Doctor. Karen Gillan was in the Doctor Who. In Doctor Who before the Doctor. Colin Baker was in Doctor Who before he was the Doctor. Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor, was like a guard in an episode at one point, like before the time.
Oh, okay.
There's a history there.
So this is very Doctor Who then. Let's just make Richard E. Grant. Let's go.
If we can get Richard E. Grant. I'm very happy to get Richard E. Grant in there. Absolutely. So,
or he can play Loki. He can play Old Man Loki, and then we're just completely doing crossovers at this point. I am fine with that.
I think that's actually what happened here because Kate Herron was the writer of this episode, who obviously was heavily involved in Loki season 1. So I think that might be. I kind of I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. I read different things. This might be someone said something. I think she kind of threw it in there almost as a joke because she is friends with Richard E. Grant, and I think RTD said, you know what, that fits in a way you don't even know because it would fit the jigsaw puzzle of the life. Let's break canon a little bit. Let's play around with it and everything else. I think it might. So it's very interesting to see what's.
I hope that's true.
I do too.
I hope that's true.
Oh, that's it. I hope it's true. I hope it inspires RTD to go,
Oh, yes.
So I have this feeling that, like,
please.
I mean, RTD has already said that we're not going to leave off on a cliffhanger of sorts. Questions are going to be answered. It doesn't mean like that, like, we can't have some things that get revisited or come out later on, like season 2 and 3 of the new season. So we keep our fingers crossed. Maybe we do get a Richard E. Grant episode of the Doctor, and I'd be all in on that for sure. For sure. Or dare I even hope? I mean, who knows? If Shooty does what everybody else does and leaves after 3 seasons, maybe Richard E. Grant will be our next Doctor. I don't know. I'd be okay with that.
Yes, anything. Sure, let's go. I'd love that.
Not we're trying to push you out the door, Shooty. We're in your first season. We get it.
No. That this man could play the Doctor for 15 years. So I don't think I'd ever tire. Oh my god, I'm crazy in love with the guy, and I've said this to you and PJ repeatedly. As I'm wildly attracted to him, even though I know I'm not his type, and somehow it makes me want him more. I'm like, yes, doesn't want me.
He's actually like rogue to you in a way, actually. So he's like your rogue in a way.
Yeah, basically. But every time I see him on screen, I'm like, could please marry me? But in like the most platonic sense as well. But I'm also deeply attracted to him. I don't know I'm all sorts of confused. Apparently I'm straighter than I thought I was. I don't know.
I am a very, very straight heterosexual white male. I understand how sexual this guy is. I get it. So
it's so confusing because I know I like usually with gay men, I'm like, yes, okay, you're beautiful. I know there's nothing there.
Right.
Whereas with him, I'm like, if you ever change your, you're super drunk, just
give Jess a call. We'll work out just fine.
Yeah.
She'll take care of you.
It's fine.
It's fine. All right. So that wins Rogue over. Rogue stops from sending him anywhere. We get to go in the TARDIS, of course, now. And we finally don't get Rogue saying it's bigger on the inside like we usually do.
No.
It was more just
it's so much better. And just the way you hear him screaming like from a distance.
Yeah.
And almost this like the way the Doctor just sort of like very smugly like, oh, I got him. Yeah, I got him.
You start singing the Willy Wonka song. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, so good.
So that's a continuation of the scene, really. It's a great scene where we get to see some actual conversation moving towards like some kind of relationship now, because obviously before it was kind of covered by the fact that Rogue thought he was an assassin or that he was a children killing people. Now that we're out of the way, we're learning more about each other. He's learning about Gallifrey. And the Doctor is very forthcoming, and he starts mentioning Gallifrey, and he'll take him there someday, but there's definitely some emotion.
But like the fact that he'd take him there, I'm like, did you just propose?
Right.
I think he just proposed. Like
right. That kind of, that's the way it sounded. It was that deep.
Right.
It was very deep. Of course, the best part for me was when we learned that, I mean, the Doctor says point blank, who did you lose? Because this place was obviously meant for two. You're traveling on your own now. And Rogue comes out like, yeah, but one day they were gone, and that was it. And we got to turn it around on a Doctor who got to basically say, yeah, I've lost everyone. Tough. Although kind of part of me was
back later as well with the whole he thought he lost Ruby as well thing.
Well, that's actually the funny part though here though. Like he says I lost everyone. I'm kind of like, well, you still got Ruby over there, and are you forgetting about her because you're thinking with the other head there, Doc? Or what's
the Doctor's one of these friends that you have as soon as they get in a relationship. No one else exists. He's just one of those.
Absolutely. So we have the almost kiss here.
Oof.
And I was like mad about it, but I was being more mad about it. I was like, if that's what they're gonna do, that's kind of a cheap way to do it. But the fact that they kiss later on makes us even better.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good now at that point. Retroactively,
the build up was much better.
Right.
I much prefer the build up for it.
Okay, so we go back now to Bridgerton at this point. Now, Ruby at this point has to go off with the other girl. This actually confused me a little bit. At some point, we learned that Ruby goes against Emily Beckett, the girl she was talking to before, while Rue and the Doctor are supposed to be trying to get the children outside or whatever. And we'll go back to that whole situation. But they learned there that it's a family instead of just one like they originally thought. But when Ruby does that with her, all of a sudden we find out that Emily is a shoulder. And I'm like, was she a shoulder the whole time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because she acts the part, like even when she shouldn't need to.
Right, because they're like, it was the two shoulders together. Like the two shoulders together were doing it. And then like, I also like, was there,
because it was him with her. Or unless they couldn't send to each other, but even still, it's still like they're romancing each other in secret. So it's like,
it just
you're performing to no one now.
Right. So I was like, I had to like create a little fan fiction in my head, a little head canon, like where at some point they were apart and a shoulder got Emily at some point. I'm guessing that happened. I don't know when it happened.
Yeah, or maybe this is just how this is foreplay for them.
Right.
They're like, we're strangers at a bar. What? Maybe that's what's happening. And my headcanon is much dirtier, obviously. It's this is just a thing for them. This is how they get prepared for a night in. I don't know.
Hey. I love a good dirty, and I like dirty minds, so it's all good. It's all good there. If they had left them, if Ruby hadn't been in that library, those books would have gone flying in a different way, I guess. But
yeah, right, exactly.
All right, so let's get to the big moment here in the middle of the dance floor. We decide that the Choulders love drama, they love scandal. So what's more scandalous than not just two men dancing together in love, but a black man and a white man dancing together in love? So it was like all the scandal that you could get in 1813 England. at that
My
point.
heavens, it's very clutching the pearls. It's very and the fans. Yeah. Oh my
And they got it.
stars. Yeah, it's great.
It's a great moment, but it's also like this awesome sequence where you see it's got a twofold approach. Obviously, they're doing this for the storyline or for the investigation, as it were, but they're also getting lost with each other. Absolutely.
So
We see the lights float away, and it's just the two of them, like in the spotlight, dancing together. The great interview with Jonathan Groff afterwards, where he talks about like he was like scared about it, and it was the first time he's been led by someone dancing. So it was kind of weird, but it was kind of nice to have.
Of course, the doctor leads, though.
Of course, the doctor.
Like, for me, that somehow fits.
Absolutely, doctor doesn't. He never led. He's the one who leads. But then we.
If River Song definitely leads. Let's be real.
Oh, you know what?
If they dance together, River Song ain't following. She's leading that shit. So
that's a good point. I actually have a feeling they would actually maybe step on each other's feet by trying to lead.
But yeah, he's definitely not leading her in that situation. Correct. At least.
Correct.
Be damned.
So Rogue says he's not good at this improv thing, but that he just impulsively drops to a knee and proposes.
Like full send. He just yes-anded like hell because like, hello, okay, boy didn't just go for it. He was just like, the ring too.
And the doctor's reaction to that was so powerful, so strong.
Real.
Ncuti is a great face actor. You can just tell what's going on, and you're drawn into that face to see. Whoa.
And like the slightest twitch of his jaw, it's not even like big overt. It's like behind his eyes. I'm like, yes, more. Okay.
You can tell there's so much more going on there. And I was playing the game, and it's like I felt like, what is he thinking about right now? Is he thinking about River? Is he thinking about just like there's a lot going on? There's a lot of layers here, a lot of layers to this. Before he like storms out, it's like I gotta get out of here. And I think it was a real I have to get out of here moment for him, not just part of the investigation. Although Groff played it off pretty wonderfully too. After he leaves, he's like, I guess I go after you. Okay.
Yeah. I love how the children's reactions are. I must play them because I was like, yeah.
Absolutely. We do get their fun conversations. They're yelling at the children, yelling those live vivisection, taking out whatever. They're just trying to get away. Inside, we get Ruby and Emily alone, and Emily wants Ruby, and we see the lightning and hear the sound, which had been at least every time throughout the previous part of the episode, meant that a Cholder was taking over. A Cholder had killed their prey and was taking over. They didn't show Ruby dying, so it was kind of like, I didn't think Ruby was going to die. I will say, I did have like a brief moment of, we are going into the finale. Is there a chance she went and Rogue was going to like take her place as a companion for the rest of the season in a way? Clara died right before the finale in the Peter Capaldi, but it's kind of like, I know she's coming back next season, so that kind of spoils that thought process. But there was like a second or two, it's kind of like, did she? Okay, probably not.
Well, I had that moment, but later on when he thinks back to her mum and that conversation, that's when I went, oh my God, they did it. That's what got me, because at that point I kind of rolled my eyes like, oh, she's dead. Okay, we'll play along. But then they did that moment. I was like, oh no.
Right. And you're right. That sold me a little bit too. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right. Because it was well dropped in, and it was a great moment. And then of course, we got the doctor crying again. That's what this thing. He cries at least once per episode. And I'm here for it. I'm okay with it. It's all good because it's all working out very well. But the best part of that was not that. It was the afterwards. It was the cold, cruel line of, how old they live. They have 600 years. Good. Because that's a long time to suffer. You're like, yes, that's the doctor. I know. It's funny. I remember reading somebody on the Facebook
haven't seen that yet. We have not.
Like said who they complained about that, saying that's not the doctor. The doctor never kills, and the doctor never tortures and stuff. I'm like, when he gets pissed, he does. When you kill a companion of his, he becomes the Time Lord Victorious, and he becomes, and
Yeah.
I mean, family of blood. He tortured them in the worst way possible. He couldn't kill them, but he put him into this whole like torture thing for like thousands of years. This is what he does. Hell, Peter Capaldi
He's like
was
Batman.
using
He
guns.
doesn't kill, he maims. He
Right.
maims quite
Right.
terribly. So
Absolutely. So it made perfect sense to me. And it was great to have Shooty have that line because, like you said, we haven't had that yet with him. And
we
it was
saw
great to see.
darkness in all the other doctors. There hasn't been a lot of darkness in his, because even his disbelief, and I know we keep going back to Dot and Bubble, but his utter disbelief at the stupidity of it all is one thing, but to watch him get dark was a completely other thing, because we haven't really seen that from him. We've had Space Babies and, you know, and music and the Beatles and all these sorts of things, but we've never had him kick over to that, okay, you know what, you've crossed a line.
Right. I mean, it's not that happens all the time. So we've only had 7 episodes, so you still get that coming in a way. But even more so, it feels like it goes against his presentation, so it's harder for him to go dark, not acting wise as far, but the characterization going dark is a little longer leap. Like when David Tennant did it, that was kind of always there. Like David Tennant's baseline had that little bit of sharpness to it at times.
He's like, give me a reason. Let's go. Come on. Give me like almost that guy at the bar that's like, someone start shit with me. Come on, I'm just looking for a reason.
Like, absolutely. Capaldi was similar because he was grumpy and crotchety, and you knew that if he went somewhere, you were done. Like I love that line too. He went to a shield or whatever. Like he's like, you know, like what it was like. She wasn't talking to me; she was saving you, kind of thing. She's talking about the dot. Like I was like, oh, that's a great line. I would liken Shooty more to Matt at this point, because Matt had his dark moments for sure. But Matt was one of those ones a little harder to get to because he kind of had the more boyishness to him, right? The more boyish goofiness, you know.
Well, that's why I fell in love with him, was because of that nervousness, that boyish charm, and he took a lot longer to get to where he needed to be to really be the Doctor. But I fell in love with him from the first episode. But I recognize, especially now seeing Gatwa's incredible run so far, you kind of start looking at the other Doctors going, okay, they had to figure it out a little bit more. Okay.
Absolutely. 100%. I will say that the fact that they don't do it.
Actually, no, Capaldi had it from the get-go, actually, for me.
Oh, good.
He had it, he had it realized. Not my favorite Doctor, but he knew the kind of Doctor he wanted to be right from the start. Whereas I feel like Smith and Tennant sort of had to figure out where they really felt the most comfortable taking their Doctor.
That's a great point, because I told you earlier, and I mean it, that like it took me a bit to get into Capaldi, even though he's my favorite. I will say that I think that was more me than him, because I do agree that he had it figured out what he wanted to do. It was whether I was ready to accept that, I guess is what it was. I did obviously eventually accept it, but I will also say
people don't see it because this first line is kidneys, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, he's doing this." I'm like, "No, he's flushing out Smith. He's still pulling himself away from Smith." But he knew within half of that episode, I was like, "Oh, this is the Doctor that he's going to be." Okay, great.
He has his moments of, he wanted to have that weirdness, that alienness, like of Tom Baker, that kind of David Tennant and Matt Smith never really fully had, because they had the charm aspect. He's not going to be the charming one. He's going to be the I am alien to you. I am from alien. I'm going to say weird, wacky things. But I will say, the episode, I think it showcase how good he did, that when Clara wasn't sure he was going to grab her hand, like I almost felt that too. Is like, is he going to grab her hand, or did he leave? He couldn't have left. When he does, it's like he is still the Doctor. That kind of thing. It's like that. Anyway, rewind a little bit about the darkness part we mentioned before. Also, is that I'm glad we don't get it often, because it makes it, when it happens, so much more powerful. My favorite episode of all time, I still go back to this, is Water to Mars.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And he goes dark in that one, and because of that power, and that's that. Though that Time Lord Victorious bit, wow! Like I was just bowled over, like the knockery. That's all you're gonna get. He takes over and everything else.
Yes.
Oh, so good. I get goosebumps thinking about it, but. Either way, we got a little bit of that taste of that here and now. I feel like we're going to get a little bit more as we go on. Probably another moment where he'll have to go off and go dark. Might even be this season, this next couple episodes, because we do have the 2-part finale coming on. So we'll find out. All right, so we do have that moment of darkness, and Shruti goes back to the wedding that's the Bridgerton wedding that the Shoulder are playing at, having revealed themselves to everybody.
So every time they do Ruby's mom, I'm like, this angel human. Because like it was the same as Rory's dad.
Yeah,
I was like, you can't break Rory's dad's heart for the love of God, especially when he says, because the last time we ever see that man is when he's asking the doctor to look out after them.
Yeah.
And it kills me every time I go back to rewatch it. And I'm like, don't do this again. Don't make me have to feel bad for a parent of it. Of like, it's weird because like we see other families of other companions, and it never really affects me in the way that like Rory's dad was the one that was always a standout, and I'm getting the same with Clara's mum.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I remember like I never cared for Martha's family. Martha's family is annoying to me a little bit, and Martha herself is not my favorite companion.
No,
I liked her better when she came back, when she wasn't the companion, when she was like with unit. I liked her there. I didn't like her as a companion. The whole I'm in love with the doctor, but he's not in love with me. That kind of was stale quickly. I didn't really care about Jackie Tyler's muling either. I mean, I like Jackie Tyler, but like it was the same. But like Rory's dad was something completely different for sure. And yes, Ruby's mom is exactly the same way. That don't break her heart. Don't break her heart.
Oh gosh, don't do it. She's like, she's adopted so many children, well, fostered so many children. She deserves a good life. She also, like, every time she's come up, she's had this effect on me. I think also I'm a child of adoption, so I think it affects me, but like in a good way, by the way. In a very positive light. It's not the adoption side of things. It's just that I'm like, you couldn't do that to my parents. Please don't do that. Please stop. Exactly. And especially like when Ruby's episode where, her mum just disappeared and then like said, no one wanted you. I'm like, oh, okay. Wow, that's a deep cut. And like, it's a deep cut for everyone. But I think especially you'd probably agree as a child of adoption, it's so much harder to hear that because that's like deep, dark, scary fears. Yes,
it is. It's actually, it's the wrong way. And it's that deep
and cuts. The next time we see her is her being like, please don't let her die, basically. I'm like, dude, don't do this. Drop her off. just drop her home.
You're gonna get in trouble with her, Doc. This is gonna happen. This is what happens with your companions. They don't have a good return rate. At least they return, but sometimes
you also don't need her hunting him down across space and time, because I feel like she would. She seems like the only parent that would probably turn vengeful and be like, I'm, coming for you.
Yeah,
there's not a corner of this universe or time and space that you can run from me. And she just turns into like this Terminator.
Cherry's got to get her own cup of tea. I'm gonna go.
Sorry. Avenge my daughter.
Avenge my daughter, exactly. All right, so we are at the wedding at that point, and the doctor comes in, all this stuff. We have the stopping of the wedding. And this is where we learned that Ruby, in fact, did not die, and in fact, did win. And I love the fact that it was psychic hearings with battle mode. I loved that because much.
They like, I thought it was just a cute little like, oh, but don't let it go too far, like, Right. And then it was, it comes in handy.
Right. And I'm like, it's just one of the things that, like, watching media, I should have known that was going to come into play. It was definitely absolutely good. Like, now that I saw it, I was like, absolutely.
Oh, you're like, of course. It just, it's Chekhov's gun. Like, it's right there.
It's Spider-Man kill mode thing. You're going to see it eventually. You have to see it. So we get to see it.
Exactly. And also, what I love is that it was still really grounded. It wasn't her body doing things that she wouldn't naturally be able to do. It was her sort of just flinging herself around, almost like you could feel like she wasn't actually in control of her moves. Like, her body was like throwing itself around. I was like, this is so well acted, because it's not like she's, like suddenly like this, martial arts master. She's still her. It's just her body's pushing her through this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I did love that. And they threw in the extra thing about the psychic earrings also covering the scent. Is that a cheesy, chintzy thing? Absolutely. But as
Yeah.
for me, when you're this kind of sci-fi world, especially Doctor Who's always a little silly. If you explain something, I buy it. If you give an
Yeah.
explanation, it doesn't have. It could be the weirdest, like, out there explanation. Timey-wimey, sure. Psychic earrings or they change the scent, sure. Sure, that's what I gotta do. Like, a sonic screwdriver could do anything, sure.
They're cosplaying bird people. I think we can suspend disbelief for a second.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I hate it when people get too like it has to be real. I'm like, this isn't House. This isn't like
Oh,
some grounded like show. This is literally about space aliens, guys. Let's
this
not
is
forget.
it's reminding like this the whole freaking thing with the acolyte earlier this week, and fire in space was the big thing. I'm like, we have much more important things to argue about. George Lucas has said the universe can be whatever I want it to be. It's my galaxy far, far away. If fire can go in space, fire can go in space. Like, why are we worrying about this? Star Wars was never hard sci-fi to begin with. It's a space fantasy. It's fucking space wizards with lightsabers, yo. Just come on. Don't worry about not being hard sci-fi. It has never been hard sci-fi. Okay, my little soapbox there. Come see us at Holy Snokes. Me and Maddie Mourner, Matt Gunner, at Holy Snokes, where we talk about the Acolyte on Wednesday. All right, but back to this episode of Doctor Who. We are getting close to the unwrapping things up. We have the great standoff. They had Dr. Rook had transformed the transformer, the transport gate, so it can hold 6 people, and they get the shoulder all in the gate, except for one of them is Ruby, and she cannot move, and there's no way to do anything about it. She can't, like, they can't do anything, but supposedly they can switch out, which we didn't know about. Again, I bought it because it was good for the story. We have Rogue.
I like how he just fireman carries her and puts her in it, and he's like, there you go. Like,
there you go. Bingo. Boom. We are left with the moment of truth. The moment of truth. Ruby is ready to sacrifice herself for the shoulder.
Yeah.
And Rogue is telling him that he has to do it, that without the shoulder, without that happening, that the shoulder are going to destroy everything, and you know it. And it's such a perfect Doctor Who line, and one of the best Shooty has gotten delivered. He delivers it so well when Rogue says, "Can you do it? Can you sacrifice? Can you lose your friend to save the world?" And he just has that moment, and he closes his eyes. He just turns to him sadly and he says, "No." And it's like, that's so Doctor Who. That's so Doctor, so gut punch Doctor moment right there. And how to we react.
Here's where I thought it was going to be a turn, though. I thought Rogue was going to turn.
You did. Okay. How so? You thought Rogue was going to become evil?
When he kissed him, I was like, here we go. It's going to be the bait and switch. It's going to be, the Hans, Elsa, Frozen, whatever. Can't remember the characters' names, but that thing where twist villain. Because I was like, oh.
No.
Because I didn't think you could push them out. So I was like, he's gonna pull it. Not necessarily a villain move, but he makes the hard decision. That's what I thought.
Because the hard decision. That I actually, that did pass through my mind. That did pass through my mind also, because it would be a very Doctor Who thing. Like, Doctor kind of falls a little bit for this guy, really likes this character. Then they make the hard choice, and the Doctor can't look at them the same way after that. And so they're like, okay. But luckily, we don't get that. We get the fact that Doctor has made such an impression on Rogue that Rogue knows he can't do it. And so what else can he do? I can save Ruby by taking her place, tossing Ruby out of the plate and standing there with her. And he has a device. He's not going to make the Doctor do it. He'll do it himself. And of course, he ends with, "Find me."
Find me.
And they all go down. Now, my first question, though, is honestly, Rogue, honey, you just went to a barren world with 5 children who want to kill you now. I hope you at least have your gun with you. Again, I'm sure those planning, I'd be like, oh, okay, sure, when it comes to place. But great performance by Groff in that moment. Great performance by Shooty in that moment. Great performance by Millie in that moment. Powerful, as much as you could ask for. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Any more about that moment for you that you liked or wanted to mention? before we go on to the ending?
Probably Millie's performance once again, as she just, you could tell that she was afraid, but she was very resolute.
Yes, very much so. All right, so we go out outside. It's daybreak at this point. The Doctor is sending the invisible spaceship up to orbit the moon for Rogue's eventual return. Which seems to me everything's screaming that Rogue's got to come back. I think Rogue's got to come back at some point.
Oh yeah,
and it's a great bit of dialogue here, and it's Millie who sells it this time because the Doctor does his doctory thing, which Matt was probably the best at, I think. Let's get all right, moving on. We're all good. We're all lucky. And Millie's not going to buy it. I was like, just stop. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be sad. Give me a hug. Like, I'll hug you. I'm here for you. It's okay to let your feelings out. I know this person was important to you. And it lets him process that just enough. Just enough that when she walks away, he does what he doesn't do for very many people. He offers the salute. And that's how we wrap it up. And man, what an episode. What an episode. I don't know what you could ask for more on, obviously, in this episode. We had great chemistry, great love, great performances, fun aliens. It was classic Doctor Who adventure all the way through. Like I said, if you're worried about Doctor Who changing, obviously, aside from the big gay romance, which was wonderful, this is basically a regular classic Ninth Doctor episode. That's all it was. That's all it was. It's just a fun old Doctor Who adventure. But one of my favorite of the season. It was just that fun. It was nice to get a Doctor heavy episode again after the last two. We're kind of, I mean, the first, obviously, Boom was, or 73 Yards was very Doctor light, but Dot and Bubble was also pretty Doctor light overall comparatively. This was actually full on because I'm like, Shooty's only got 8 episodes of the season. I want to see Shooty at this point. One Doctor light episode is enough for the season at that point. So yeah, that's where we are. And then, did you watch the trailers usually afterwards? Or no?
Yes,
you do. Okay,
yes.
so do I. We're finally getting there. We didn't even mention this episode. We actually did get to see Susan Twist, the Susan Twist of it all in the painting.
Yes, portrait
of Susan Twist, and the Doctor and Ruby are definitely starting to understand that this is something that is invading.
It's like,
their life.
Where's Wally for me? I'm like, where is she? In the whole ballroom, I'm like up against the TV, being like, I'm looking for you.
Right, absolutely. It's similar. It's a little bit of a repeated beat for RTD. It's Bad Wolf just as a person, pretty much the repeated things you see in a way. And I'm okay with that, though. I'm okay with the repeated beats for it. Sometimes retelling a story, if you retell it just enough differently,
feels fresh as well.
It still feels fresh. It feels very fresh, and I can't wait to get there. Yeah, the great little thing we have, Susan Twist is going to be revealed, or we believe she's going to be revealed, because that's like what they're all talking about. Get to see Kate back. We get to see Unit back. And so a 2-part finale. But unfortunately, we don't get them all on the same night. It's going to be 1 week, then 1 week. That's sad for me, but it is true. I will also say that RTD on Instagram did post a photo of Mrs. Flood, we haven't seen in a bit, in Cherry Sunday's room, and said something like, stay away from her, or leave her alone, or whatnot. So Mrs. Flood is definitely going to be coming back for these last 2 episodes as well. Mrs. Flood, of course.
Oh my gosh.
Being, of course, for me, Mrs. Dr. Brian May. That's all I was saying. But I'm excited to see that we're finally going to get some answers about her as well, because that's been a big part of the beginning part of the season. We haven't seen her. You kind of see her every once in a while just pop in like a I'm still here kind of moment. But we all still remember that. Haven't you ever seen a TARDIS before? Line in the beginning. Who is she? What's going on? What the hell is happening? I'm hoping we get some good answers. I'm excited about this coming up. I'm sad that we're going to be done so soon. It feels like we just began. But at least with this new schedule, we know we have a Christmas special coming out this year, written by Stephen Moffat, by the way, which I'm happy for. And then we'll be back next season for season 2. So we are in a much more regular state, and that makes me. I'll take a little bit less episodes if we get onto a regular.
Fine.
Thing. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want the 12. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I want the 12, 13 episodes we used to have. But if we get a regular
This
thing,
is an okay compromise.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Any last thoughts about the episode or the Doctor in general? Anything you want to mention, talk about?
I'm very excited. I love a good mystery. I love a
Mm,
good mystery. It's like the Clara of it all, because everyone keeps asking, being like, "Oh, they haven't given us enough answers." I'm like, Clara took forever.
yeah.
We saw her as multiple different people, and it
Mm-hmm.
took forever to find out. None of us complained. We just went,
Absolutely.
okay.
We went and watched.
Sorry, guys. I like this.
Yeah.
I like having a mystery. I like being. I've talked to you and PJ about Charlie Day with the strings being like, okay. Also in the background, Ruby Sunday, RS River Song. She's River Song. These sorts of things. I love doing that. So
Me too. I enjoy that too. I've always been one to speculate about things, and it's a fun thing to do. I do think there's a danger in it. Sometimes people get speculating so heavily that they get these great ideas in their head, and then when it doesn't end up being that, they get mad about it. Like to me, I'm like, that's not the point. The point is the fun speculation. And if it does, you end up being right. You're like, yes, cool. And if it doesn't, you're like, oh, well, that would have been cool, but it's still pretty cool to this way too. So I have never really been led astray by RTD, so I'm happy with what he delivers, and I can't wait to see what he delivers.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm also figuring that we're going to get this couple of answers here, and I kind of feel like we're going to get an announcement of a spinoff soon. We've been talking about that for a while, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something come into play, no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm.
For PJ's sake, I will throw my weight behind like an 8th Doctor miniseries or something to that effect.
Oh, yeah.
Which could be really cool. So give Paul McGann some love, considering he has only had like 200 minutes or so of screen time as Doctor Who.
He's
as
a little
the Doctor. Yes, absolutely. So, all right, that will do it. Thank you so much, Jess, for pinch hitting for PJ Campbell. I am so happy you were here to talk Doctor Who with me. You're always welcome back. We'll have to have you again at some point. We'll even maybe do a trio or some point when we have the time to do that. We wonder.
Do an on-screen threesome.
An on-screen threesome. I need the ratings. Okay. And after you just said that, Jess, where can the folks find you?
Find me down at my handle, Kiwi_Jess_. I'm also, oh gosh, Sean would kill me if I didn't do this. So I'm on a show where I play Dungeons and Dragons for the very first time. It's called Rookies and Rulebooks, and you could probably find it somewhere on my Twitter because that's pretty much all I tweet about. And we are on a cliffhanger currently. My character's on a boat with a bunch of bad people, and there's no one else around, so it's going to go well.
That sounds like the indie that I used to play, so it makes sense to me.
Yes.
All right, folks, you can find me at @FallenSquare on Twitter. You can find me all over this channel. Obviously, Holy Snokes every week with Maddie Gunner and me talking Star Wars. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about the Acolyte episode that will have just dropped. Can't wait to do that. On Thursday, you'll see me and Lego doing review. Our entry into the 2009 reboot of V. We have finally reached that, and Lego had a lot to say about that. For sure, that was actually a fun episode. We disagreed a lot on that episode, but in a fun, healthy way. And then, of course, my Crown Jewels podcast, where I go through Queen every week. We're on more of that jazz, the Roger Taylor. That's right, the Roger Taylor song from Jazz. I think that's all I do. Oh, yeah. Well, after Big Blue is done, after the Doctor Who season is done, PJ and I will come back with 2 mediocre white dudes on film. Going to be going into the John Wick series and Nightmare on Elm Street, which is going to be a hell of a lot of fun to talk about. I think that's it. Oh, I do have one more. It's a soft announcement. I've been kind of teasing this for a bit, and I'm not ready to completely announce yet. I don't have a date, but I do have a podcast, a new monthly-ish podcast that's going to take place. The first episode will be me, Maddie Gunner, and a special guest. And I'll let you know more about that when I have more of the confirmations, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So until next time, next week, same Tiny Whitey Plays Tiny Whitey channel. We love you guys, and Big Blue Box. We'll be back for more. Bye now.